Good afternoon. I'm from Kuwait. Very disappointed. I'm not feeling the love for oil here in this room among you guys. I'm the father and stepfather of 7 children, all accidentally born in New York. And my 3.5-year-old Rayyan this summer came up to me. I was in the house working, writing, and he came up to me and he said, "You know, Baba," he's a Scooby-Doo addict. He actually called me a meddling kid one day. But he said, "Baba, I want to go get my Scooby-Doo. It's in my playhouse outside." And I said, "Go away. I'm working." And so he's 3.5, but he sat there and he reimagined and re-engineered what would get his father off his butt and go get his Scooby-Doo toy. So he said to me, he said, "Baba, I want you to come with me to my office in my house. I have work to do." And a lot of the work that I've been doing has to do with kind of, I mean, the 3.5-year-old gets it at his level, but that's what I've been working on. Now, Rayyan, he doesn't know this yet, or maybe he does at some level, but in 2015 or 2016, we'll end up going to Camp Robin Hood, which is not very far from here. His brothers, I have 5 boys. My wife has a boy and a girl from before. I have 3 from before. We have 2 together. We've considered changing our name from Al-Mutawa to Algebra, but his older brothers have been going to Camp Robin Hood. Hamid will be going back for his 6th year, Faisal and Khalid for their 3rd. And my own parents sent me there in 1979. Put me on an airplane, sent me to Camp Robin Hood. And back then, you know, the best we could do for television in Kuwait is, if we really wanted to kind of, you know, cutting edge stuff, is we wait for a day where it wasn't too dusty and not too rainy, and maybe we can catch a glimpse of something from Baghdad or from Dubai TV. And so I had no idea what Fantasy Island was. And you can tell from my height and weight what I must look like when I was 8. I was like a box. And the kids at camp used to make me point up to the sky and say, "Boss, boss, the plane, the plane." And I finally figured out what that was. 4 years into it, my father, you know, asked to see, you know, the yearbook came every year, and we were having a great time. And so went through the names of the kids at camp, and, you know, so Klein, Friedman, Steinberg, Greenberg, right? And so my father said, you know, where are these people from? I said, you know, because at camp the joke was, these are nice Italian names. So I said, they're Italian. I didn't know. But I guess my father asked somewhere else, because that following summer we went to camp in Switzerland. Didn't go back to Robin Hood. The camp was called Dr. Schmidt. We threw every other letter off that name. And after a few weeks, got sent back to Robin Hood because we just didn't like it. And I ended up spending 10 years there. And now my boys go there. But basically, camp was a very important part of my life and a very important part of my story with the 99, because it was there that I started to navigate kind of self and other, and how perception really informs, you know, how I'm seen, how others see me. And I guess maybe my becoming a psychologist was my wanting to go back to the demographics of camp. But so I started my work. I graduated from Boston Tufts University in 1994, came back to Kuwait and hit the floor running. I was writing, took myself a little bit too seriously. But a man had just gotten fired from their job because of their religion. And the person that fired him gave out leaflets to the local community apologizing that had he known this guy's religion, he wouldn't have hired him to begin with. Okay? So I trying to figure out what planet I just landed on. My reaction was a book that I thought was written for adults, which UNESCO corrected me when they gave me an award for children's literature. And so I couldn't argue with them, but I wrote a series of books. The first did well, the second did well, the third got banned, the fourth got banned. I quit writing at 27, vowed never to go back. And this was, you know, I couldn't do the starving artist, but I could do the angry young man pretty well. And so the books are very simple. They're about accepting people's differences and tolerance and intolerance. And the third book got stopped. And I just didn't know, just thought this is very frustrating, dealing with censors. And you have to understand, I grew up in a part of the world where, you know, the Soviet Union banned Animal Farm because it spoke about totalitarian. Somebody thought about what this message meant and banned it. In my neck of the desert, it was banned because there was a pig on the cover. So it's a different kind of level of censorship that you can't really negotiate with. And so it kind of pushes some people to quit, which I did for a while, and others to become more creative, which I did eventually. And so I came back to New York, went to graduate school, trained at Bellevue Hospital Survivors of Political Torture program for a couple of years. I saw the Arabic-speaking patients, but there are people there from all over the world. We do not have a monopoly on how not to treat fellow human beings. And I heard one too many stories of people who had grown up idolizing their leader as a hero, only to end up being tortured by them. Now, torture is a terrible, terrible thing. But imagine that this is the hero that's torturing you on one level, and on the other level, this is what you're aspiring to become. It's very complicated. A couple of my patients there were part of the army that invaded my country in 1990. I left Bellevue and needed a break. Went to business school at Columbia for a couple of years, and then decided that I was going to be creating those heroes. And so the last 6 years of my life has been dedicated to a business which I launched, which I'll talk to you about. So basically, I was in a cab ride with my mother and my sister going from Edgware Road to Harrods, a pilgrimage that every Kuwaiti makes at least once a year. And on the way to Harrods, my sister turned to me and said, Naif, you remember you told me after school you'd go back to writing and I'd illustrate. And I hadn't written in 5 years for anyone but myself. And I said, yeah, I remember. And I just wanted her to shut up. I mean, I'd just done all these graduate degrees. I had 3 master's degrees, a doctorate. I just didn't want to go back to writing for kids. And so I said, you know, someone, for me to go back now, it's got to be something that has the potential of Pokemon. Otherwise, it just makes no sense. Okay? She took the cue. She shut up. But what happened, as you know, being trained as a psychologist, I started to free associate. So I said Pokemon. My next thought was there had been a fatwa issued against Pokemon, making it un-Islamic in some markets. My next thought was, my God, what has happened to Islam? And who are these people making these random decisions for my children? My next thought was of Allah and how disappointed he must be. My next thought was that Allah had 99 attributes. And ironically, and I'm sure not the intention of the people that had the fatwa, it brought me full circle back to Pokemon, a concept of a few hundred attributes. So I got out of the cab, I turned to my sister, I said, what do you think of this? She loved it, and I ran. I wrote the business plan, the financials, the concept, and I pitched. I ended up raising $7 million within a few months from 50 investors in 8 countries, $1 million of which came from my classmates in business school. And so the investors are from the US and Mexico and China and Beirut. I tell people, of all the things I'm proud of, I think I'm the only Kuwaiti that went to Beirut and actually came out with money instead of. Okay. So what was the pitch? The pitch was this, that if you look at the superheroes that exist in the world today, that was 6 years ago, there are 2 groups, the group that comes out of North America and the group that comes out of Japan. The ones that come out of North America are all based on a Judeo-Christian Greek backstory. So like the prophets, all the superheroes are missing parents. Superman's parents die in Krypton. Batman's parents die when he's 6. Spider-Man's raised by his aunt and uncle. And all of them have a message delivered from above through a messenger. The prophets get it from God through Gabriel, but Peter Parker's taking a photograph when the spider comes in from above, right, and gives him his message through a bite. Superman gets it from another planet. Not only that, but when he's sent to Earth, he's sent in a pod, very much like Moses on the Nile. And then you hear the voice of his father saying to Earth, I have sent to you my only son. Familiar? Right? So the idea there is basically, it's a good story. The Bible is known as the greatest story ever told. So it's a repackaging of stories that already resonate with people. So what I told to my investors, I was going to be able to do this with the Quran. Okay, and go to the source that others have pulled out hateful messages and create positive multicultural ones. When I started this, people, some people were a bit nervous. They said, what are you doing? Have you talked to any scholars? And I'd always avoid that question because I knew full well that if I got this scholar's endorsement, the 2 that don't like him are going to unendorse me. So I'd say, well, I get to avoid the question. And I'd say, well, I spoke to Emo Phillips. I'd say, Sheikh Phillips, we don't know him. I said, that's a good thing because he's a comedian. So, well, what do you mean? So well, Emo Phillips used to say that every night to the age of 10, he used to pray to God for a bicycle. And by 10, he realized that God didn't work that way. So he stole the bicycle and started praying for forgiveness. And what I told my investors, that this would not and could not be another made in 5th world country production. This was going to be Superman, or it wasn't worth my time or their money. So from the very beginning, it was a bit tough. I mean, if you thought that you've done anything difficult in your life, imagine going to New York City 2 years after 9/11 and telling people you want to create superheroes based on Islam. So the way I solved that, you guys remember Cracked magazine growing up? Yeah. I bought it. And then I sold it, because when the Islamic bankers came in a year later, we had trouble navigating, getting to some markets. And the way I dealt with it, even though the debate was fun, what I did is I told the Islamic bankers came in, bought 30% of the company, and basically gave us we became kosher, basically. People could no longer argue with us whether what we were doing was Islamic or un-Islamic, but we had to sell crack. It didn't fit into their strategy. So from the very beginning, the people involved are the same people who do Batman and Superman. It's all top-tier stuff. The 99 concept, very simply, is the fall of Baghdad in 12. Actually, let me skip this part. It'll come out in the animation clip I'm going to show for you, since time is running. Maybe I'll go back to it in a sec. So here's some of the characters that we have. The premise is there are 99 characters from 99 different countries. So from the very beginning, I had to design this concept not just for the Middle East, because every year, a couple of shows get pulled off the air, people get censored and stop writing, so this was not going to fall prey to this. Pokemon did plenty well with being banned in some places. And so the characters are from 99 different countries, so we have an American hero, and a British hero, and a Saudi hero, and an Indonesian hero, and they work in teams of three. Teams of three because we have a concept in Islam that you don't leave a boy and a girl alone together because the third person is the devil, right? So I thought two boys and a girl, two girls and a boy, no problems. Well, there's a scholar online who wrote about how the Pope sent me to the Middle East to preach the Trinity, so you believe who you want. I gave you my side of the story. Okay? So the characters, we have Jami' from Hungary. He's our technology character. We have Hadia from Pakistan. She's able to guide people if they're lost, basically. Jabbar from Saudi uses his muscles. I'm from Kuwait. It's a very tiny country, so we have to pay respect to the bigger Noura from the Emirates, who lights up a place. Nur means light. So there's something heavy in a dark room. Noura be helpful. So it's about teamwork. It's about intercultural dialogue and intercountry connectedness. Mumita from Portugal. The 99 attributes have a yin and yang. There's the powerful, the hegemonous. There's also the kind and the generous. And I didn't want to have all the girls be kind and generous. I wanted this to be something for everybody. And I've met a few Mumitas in my life. So she's Fattah from Indonesia. Samir from France, he's mute. We have a character in a wheelchair, working on a blind and deaf one now. Mujiba from Malaysia is our first character that wears the hijab. Now, almost half the characters are girls, only a handful will wear the hijab, and the idea is that there are many ways to be the person you want to be. I came home one day and I told my wife, I've been telling her she's going to join the 99 at some point, and so I came home and I said, you're part of the 99, look. She goes, that's not me. I said, it's the eyes, look at the eyes. She's back there in the back, by the way, she's not covered. Sometimes you just work hard, but it's luck that gets you to where you want to be. New York Times interviewed me beginning December 05, promised me a paragraph in the art section if I talked to nobody else. And I said, okay, it was a big deal back then, a week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, no article. I called him up, I said, Happy New Year. He said, thank you, we just had a baby. I said, congratulations. When's the art coming out? Next week. Again, nothing. By then I gave up hope. Next thing you know, the world erupts in the Danish cartoon controversy. And I'm thinking, I hope it doesn't come out. I hope this article doesn't come out. And the New York Times isn't stupid. Next thing you know, it's a full page in the Sunday Times. In the midst of the controversy, I hold my breath. Next thing you knew, we get covered in thousands of outlets positively. And that really helped us take it to the next level. Thank you. So we've been able to launch editions in 8 different languages, in India and Indonesia and Turkey. And these are all, people have paid for this. It's not at our expense. We've launched our first theme park in Kuwait 6 months ago. This is the most conservative part of Kuwait. To think that 10 years ago, somebody got fired because of their religion, and now people who represent those faiths are up there on the wall and kids are playing. Huh? Don't tell them, though. We did a JV with Endemol. You'll be seeing a clip of the animation in a minute. Endemol is the largest TV producer in the world. Deal or No Deal, Big Brother, came to us. First time in their history, they put money in something they don't own. 26 episodes have been financed. The writing's all been done in Hollywood. And the direction the writers have gotten from me, it's only when Jewish kids watch this and think these characters are Jewish, and Muslims think they're Muslim, and Hindus think they're Hindu, and Christians think they're Christian, that I've achieved what I'm trying to achieve here. So on the values level, we are all the same. Some of the licensed products a company in Spain bought the rights to do. So this is just the timeline. I'm happy to send this to people in terms of what we've been able to achieve in the short period of time we've existed, worse in the UN, the World Economic Forum. And how do you know that you've achieved not another made in fifth world country production? How do you know that? Well, you know that when DC Comics announces that to commemorate President Obama reaching out to the Muslim world, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman will be reaching out to the 99 to work together in a global series published in 2010. So very excited about that. And from that, we'll go to a clip, and I'll end with a story. Go ahead, play the clip, please. It's a clip of the upcoming animation series.
"99 stones of light and power scattered around the world. 99 powers beyond imagination. 99 young heroes, their fate not yet revealed. Together, they hold the future in their hands. But their struggle against evil stretches back through the ages. The story begins in 13th century Baghdad at the Dar al-Hikmah, the Library of Wisdom, a collection of knowledge second to none. But it wasn't to last. The Mongol horde swept in to destroy the empire. They filled the Tigris River with books to use them as a bridge. But waiting downriver were the scholars. They had 99 special gemstones, which they dipped in the water. Each was infused with the wisdom of the books. Wisdom and power. Thus were the Nur stones born. Today, 5 centuries later, 99 youngsters begin to discover the stones around the world. But who will guide the 99? The forces of light?
Well done, team.
Teamwork, 99 style.
Or the forces of darkness, led by the sinister Rugal?
We could save the world, you and I.
Save it from what exactly?
From fools like your friend there, Ramsey. Always yapping about helping the poor and the weak. This world belongs to the strong. The ones who are willing to crush dissent and impose their will on the mindless masses.
That's a little harsh, don't you think?
The world is harsh, Naif. Big animals eat smaller animals. But what do I know? I've only been around 500 years. Well, who's with me?
One by one, all over the world, the stones are being found. But will their new owners use them for good or for evil? The 99, a major new animated series from Endemol. Coming soon.
Thank you. So this is a fun part of my presentation. How many of you have read The Catcher in the Rye? Hands up. Catcher in the Rye. How many of you have killed in the name of that book? No one? You know, you laugh, but 30 years ago, Mark David Chapman shot and killed John Lennon with a copy of that book with him. A year later, John Hinckley tried to kill President Ronald Reagan, also referred to the same book as to the reason why he wanted to kill the presidents. So I leave you with a question before I tell you a story, and that question is, whose fault is that? Is it the book or the deranged lunatic who pulled out their own messages? It's all about perception. And I'll leave it on a light note. Many years ago in undergrad, one of the Arab groups was giving away falafel during one of the Independence Days. I'm not sure which country it was. And so people came over, had a big sign behind us, said free falafel. People came over, ate the falafel, had a chat about whatever the country was, and left. Everything was going smoothly. There was nothing, everything was neutral, nothing that was political. Until a woman came running across the campus center, dropped her bag, pointed up to the sign, and said, "Who's falafel?" She had just walked out of an Amnesty International meeting. She was in that mindset. And as you know, if you have a hammer, everything becomes a nail. So please, the next time somebody says they're doing something in the name of my religion, the idea that should come to you, or the thought that should come to you, is that of Mark David Chapman cowering in the shadows of the Dakota. Please don't think of Islam. Thank you.